Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time.
All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
¿Qué onda, mi gente? Es el Doble D.
Hello.
What's up? What's
Yo,
up?
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, why don't
Appreciate
you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, give us that, Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Okay, well, I'm a reggaeton artist.
Mm-hmm.
I also do hip-hop.
Mm-hmm.
I go by the name of Doble D, a.k.a. El Pinche Doble D, carnal. I'm from Mount Vernon, Washington. I grew up, I pretty much grew up there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've been there since I was 8. Up until now, I have not, left the city. Just
Oh, dang.
I live there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And what got you into music initially?
Music-wise, I've never actually, thought of myself doing music in a way.
Oh, interesting.
I just had a couple friends that they did their music.
Mm-hmm.
I would just show up to the studio and kick it with them.
Mm-hmm.
And one day they were just like, "Hey, get on the beat." And I'm like, "Bro, I cannot rap. And they're like, "Get on it." So I tried getting on it English, and it was like, "Nah, it's not for me." I was like, I was just joking. I was like, "I think I'll do better Spanish." And they're like, "Then give it a try." So I did. And I'm not even lying. When I did, their jaws dropped. And that's kind of where, I knew, all right, I got something,
Gotcha, okay.
And they just kind of kept up pushing me, come to the studio.
Yeah.
And I did that for, about 2 years, but it was just more of a hobby. It wasn't more of, taking it serious. Up until, maybe 2-3 years ago, I met Brie, which she's one of my closest friends. And he kind of showed me the way of if you want to make it in this music industry, you got to do it this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of how it started.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I dig that. And was anybody in your household musical at all growing up?
Not at all.
Okay, so you're first generation of music in your family.
My family's always been big on music. They love cumbias and old school reggaeton.
Yeah.
And my dad's all corridos, which is really Mexican music. And I've been into that, but I never seen myself doing music ever.
Gotcha, okay.
It's just something that just came
you just
about.
kind of got pushed into it and it turned out to work out.
Pretty much, yeah.
I dig that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's
now,
pretty dope.
Before we get into more of what you do with it in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on.
Okay, cool.
And this first one's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
That I bought with my own money?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with Damn by Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. Quality choice. What made you choose that one? Other than the obvious.
I'm not even going to lie. I think I was at Target. And I was just wandering around the store through the electronics. And I seen the little CD, box. And I was like, oh, this looks dope. I've heard of Kendrick Lamar before, but I was like, I hadn't even heard the album yet. And I was like, you know what? And at the time, the reason why I looked specifically at the CDs because I had a little Mitsubishi, a little 2002 Mitsubishi Lancer. And it only had for the freaking CD, it didn't even have the aux.
Yep.
So I would go to the store and just look randomly for CDs, and I seen it, caught my attention. I put it in there, and ever since I think I repeated that CD a million times to the point where I just kind of memorized word for word.
Gotcha.
And it's just kind of like spoke to me. And this was way before I was even doing music, way before.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, I've always been a big fan of music, like hip hop especially too. But it's just more of like, that really caught my attention, you know?
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely a quality album. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to? So like you saw it was happening.
That I wanted to go to?
Yes, like you were the one who bought the ticket and went to it.
Damn. That's a little hard one. Actually, I went to see G-Eazy.
Okay.
I think this was back in 2016. And I think the openers was like Fora and Trippie Redd.
Whoa.
Which Trippie Redd was like, I was fucking with his style at that time. Like, I would listen to his music and stuff. He was kind of popping around that time. And then I seen he was like an opener. So I was like, oh, I want to go see it. And then I seen who was like the main artist, and it was G-Eazy. I was like, okay, dope.
Yeah, you have to for sure now.
And it was a dope experience. It was actually one of my first concerts, like big ones, you know, because obviously I've been to like smaller ones.
Yeah.
But it was one of like the biggest ones I've been to. And when I seen G-Eazy perform, it was like a movie. He had like fog machines, like it was dope.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, it was one of the first shows that I was like, okay, let's go, you know?
Yeah, oh man, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And then before we officially get into the now, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yes. I mean, I started taking a little bit more serious like 2-3 years ago. But I feel like this year is where like, I'm like, okay, this is something that I can make something happen with this.
Gotcha.
I'm getting recognition. You know, I'm getting booked for shows. You know, I think you just kind of have to work your way up to the point where you're like, okay, I can make a living off of this.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm passionate about. But this year definitely is kind of like, I'm taking it more serious. I'm putting more time into my craft, making sacrifices. I live in Mount Vernon, and I drive up to Seattle every weekend. If it's not to go to the studio, it's to go perform. And if it's not to perform, I go out and make content. You know, just reels for Instagram, everything. So it's just like, it's just a passion that just keeps growing and growing. And I feel like it's gotten to the point this year where I'm like, I need to take it more serious.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to seeing what comes from that.
Yes.
But now let's go ahead. Let's get on into the present day. We are going to get a super easy one out of the way first, though.
Okay, dope.
How'd you pick the name?
The name. Okay, that's a funny story. Because when I did my first song, it just, that's a funny story. But the song that I first ever did, I just released like a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but when I first did my song, I posted it on YouTube, and my name was under Doble D, which is my legal name.
Gotcha.
You know?
Okay.
Danny Dominguez. And it was just more of like, it doesn't sound like catchy or something that, you know, it doesn't even sound like an artist name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it being one just because I've heard too many at this point. But like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, it wouldn't quite attach to the sound that you have.
Yeah, and then at the time I wasn't taking it serious, so like I took the song down, whatever. And then my homie was like, "Oh, why? Like, you know, you got something. Just keep it going." And then I was like, "I don't even like my own freaking artist name. Like, I don't even want to. Like, I didn't really want to do it. I was kind of more like, you know, pushed into it." And then I started just like going to the studio just randomly, just for the, you know, just to have fun.
Yeah.
Just more of a hobby, nothing too serious. And I made another song, and I was like, if I release a song, I need to change my name because I don't like my name, you know?
Fair.
And we were just sitting there, and I was trying to think of a way that I could make Doble D just more simpler, which comes from Doble D, which is 2 Ds. That's pretty much where the name came from.
Gotcha. Okay, so your name is basically Double D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't like it in English.
No.
Not at all.
No.
You know,
it looks and sounds cooler in Spanish, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
100%.
Oh yeah, well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
Now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process a little bit.
Okay, dope.
And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning.
Okay.
So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. How do you go about getting a track started?
There's different ways depending on the track. If it's more, I don't know, just most of the time I listen to the beat and I let it speak to me. I gotta feel the vibe. I usually just set up my camera, put on the beat, and I freestyle. And whatever I like, I take out and I use that. I feel like that's more of my creative way, as in like, you don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
You just say what you feel, what feels right, what sounds dope. There is certain like songs, like when I do hip hop, I freestyle, but then I also, after I freestyle, I like to sit down and write.
Gotcha.
And I make sure, because when I do hip hop, it's more of like, you got to think of like bars, flows, just different types of things you got to do.
Yeah, you got to be aware of the actual point of the craft, the art that goes into it.
Yeah, you got to, think about words. Make sure that it doesn't just sound dope, but it makes sense in a way, So it just, it varies. Like, it just depends on what genre I'm doing. Because I also do hip hop, trap, reggaeton. It's just any kind of music in a way. It's just more of like the one that I do the most is just reggaeton and hip hop.
Gotcha.
Like, those are like my strengths. Like, I can write a reggaeton song. I could even just do a song full, like freestyle reggaeton, like, because it's just more of like vibes.
Yeah.
You say what you're thinking, what sounds right. Hip hop, there's times where I just freestyle, but most of the time you got to use your head a little bit more and, perfect your craft.
No, I dig that.
Yeah.
I dig that. I like that. I like the acknowledgement of separating the two as well.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then when it comes to like beat selection, do you got a guy you go to? Do you get them off the internet? Do you make them yourself?
It depends too. When it comes to a reggaeton song, I have not yet met an artist or a producer, my bad, producer that makes beats personally for me yet. But I do get them off like YouTube. I make sure I purchase the whole thing. Everything. But when it comes to hip hop, I have a couple guys that they message me on Instagram like, hey, I'm gonna send you this many beats. Let me know which one you like and you can have for free. And I'm like, dope.
Okay.
I'll take it. You know? Which it's dope. Most of the time, they're dope, but some of them sometimes it just doesn't fit my style.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much my reggaeton beats, I get them from YouTube. I would love to find a producer that can make me beats custom made. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, anybody watching, if you know somebody, put them in the comments.
Let me know. Yeah. But hip hop, I got a whole bunch of just producers sending me beats all the time.
Gotcha.
Which is dope. And I mean, most of them don't even charge me. They're just like, they see my style, they see what I can do with the beat, and they're like, you can have the beat.
Hell yeah.
Which is dope.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to talk about that in just a moment. But before we do, I'm kind of curious, once you get a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be like released per se, but you're ready to start memorizing it, you're ready to start getting it out there. How long does it usually take you to feel comfortable enough to perform a track?
Oh, to perform a track? There's times that I perform tracks when it's just like a rough draft. Like,
gotcha. Okay, so you're not afraid to get out there with it.
I mean, I could even on stage, I could freestyle if I have to,
Yeah.
It's just more of like, I love how people react to the sound of my voice. Not a lot of people expect that. Or, I used to get a lot oh, do you use auto-tune? No, my voice is very high pitched. It just sounds dope.
Yeah, you've got a slightly higher register than your general speaking voice.
Yeah,
sure.
And most of the time, when I either record a track or perform, I'm a very loud rapper. So when you hear me, there's a whole lot of energy that you hear. It's not just words, you hear that energy and it just kind of it gets the attention,
Yeah.
In a way. But I think that performing wise, sometimes I don't even practice it that much. It's just if I'm performing and I forget words, I just go off the top of my head and say something that'll match the the vibe or whatever I'm saying, you know?
Hell yeah. That's a very solid way to handle it in the live setting for sure.
I had to learn that the hard way.
Oh man, you'd be amazed how many people don't learn that at all, even when doing it the hard way.
No, yeah. I had my first show that I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
My homie Estebri, he was opening up for Secan, which is a really big artist in Mexico. And there was like 300 people in the crowd. My first time ever performing.
Oh, damn.
I was nervous.
Real trial by fire there.
The first track that we did, I did a couple bars and then I froze up. I forgot. My homie, you know, he punched in and he kind of like finished it for me like freestyle. Mm-hmm. And that's where I kind of seen that. I peeped that and I'm like, okay, I need to work on that. But then the crowd kind of noticed it too. But they fucked with my style, so they were like,
yeah.
They kind of like looked at me like, come on, like you got this. Like they were cheering me on. And then the second song, I killed it, and it was just like that feeling that I got from the crowd. It was like something amazing that made me want to keep doing this.
Yeah, very much so. Well, damn, to be put in that kind of setting that early on too. It's like you really, once you do that, you go back to like smaller shows, and you're like, I got to get back to that.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Shout out my homie Estebri. He definitely put me on. I'm thankful for him, for real. I show a lot of love to him. But yeah, there's shows where like that I've done where it's like 5-10 people in the crowd.
Yep.
So to go from that to like 5 to 10 people in the crowd, it's just like, damn.
Yeah, you're like, and that, we got to build from here.
Yeah, that kind of keeps you pushing. Like, I gotta do better to get more people at my shows. I gotta, you just gotta hustle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta make it. You make yourself known to other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's take a moment then. Let's talk about some of your music.
Okay. Dope.
So I jumped on Yield Spotify, and you've got a select handful of tracks going all the way back to 2023, and they're all really solid. I thought it was all super well put together. You've got a great energy. Even though there are only a few tracks on there, they're at like these perfect strategic moments to like really give you this like great view of like where you're going with your music.
Yeah.
And just, it really leaves you wanting more. Every track I checked out, I was like, all right, let's get to the next one. Let's get to the next one. And I got through it. I'm like, I'm going to go to the YouTube now because there were a couple on there. I checked that out. You do have a really, really well put together sound.
Thank you.
And your most recent track that came out, Talkie Talkie, which like literally it just came out a couple days ago in the time of today. It's cool, man. It's got a really big sound. It's got a lot of attitude. Your delivery is a little more staccato, but it's strong.
That's the crazy thing is that's one of the I think that's like the first song I've ever recorded.
Yeah, I remember you saying that early in the interview. Yeah. That was like one of the early ones.
It's a song that I've always wanted to put out because I had put it out, but then I took it down.
Yeah,
but it's something that I've always wanted to put out. I just didn't know when. I didn't know if it was like worthy of putting out there because I used to doubt myself back when I first started. That's why I took it down.
Gotcha.
But I feel like it's just more of like my own hometown. Like they don't support as much as like when I go perform in Seattle, people are like, wow, like you have an amazing voice. That sounds dope. That type of feedback is what makes me more confident in of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So that song specifically, I've had it for years. I listen to it in my car all the time. And I'm like, I love this song, but I don't know if people are going to love it.
Yeah.
But I think it's gotten to the point where it's like, I want to put out there what I want, not what people want.
Yeah, that's a very important way to think about it. Also, I've learned just through time, I've been involved in putting out a bunch of music. I know a bunch of people who put it out. Once you build a catalog of like sounds that are like in the beginning, you have to put out the stuff you like.
Exactly.
You have to later when you're big, when you're famous, of course you're going to tailor it to new audiences, to old audiences, to this, to that. But in the beginning, it has to be you full on. And then once you build a catalog of sounds you like, people who like that as well will find it. It always ends up in front of people in some way, shape, or form that will click with it as long as you're confident in what you're putting out.
Exactly. Honestly, the only reason I don't have so much music out is because I used to I'm like a very like judgmental person. I judge my music all the time. I'm like my biggest critic. I'm always like, is this good enough? Or did I say something that doesn't sound dope? But I I kind of just like would get in my head.
Yeah.
But now it's more of like, I mean, I also had an issue with my DistroKid where it wouldn't let me put music out.
Yeah.
And I just figured it out. So people need to stay tuned because I'm about to release a shit ton of music.
Okay.
I got probably over like 200 tracks.
Oh, damn.
But they're not all obviously going to be released. But I have a lot of tracks that like I know that are going to do good. I don't have a date yet, but I'm working on an EP.
Okay.
It's a reggaeton EP. So that Taki Taki song is kind of like a preview of what you're going to get.
All right.
In a way.
Hell yeah.
So it's probably going to be like a 4 or 5 song EP. And then, well, we'll go from there. I got other music too.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I am curious to know that out of all the music you have available or like stuff that you're like putting out there full time right now, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
Ooh. All-time favorite has to be Mira Mira.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my favorite song. But I love to perform reggaeton. It gets the crowd going.
Mm-hmm.
People start dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Just vibes everywhere. I love to perform. I mean, if I'm being honest with you, most of the set that I perform are unreleased music. Yeah. And, you know, people love it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's like, that's kind of, it has pushed me to where, like, if people, like, I perform it and people like it, yeah, I'm going to put it out.
Oh, okay.
You know?
So
that's kind of what kind of gave me the confidence to kind of be like, this is good. Like, you need to put this out there.
Well, people are vibing with your unreleased music, so they can't even know to prepare for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a smart way to do it, to just always be doing unreleased stuff, and whatever works, make that the thing that you put out later.
Yeah, I think out of like the set list that I've always done, like there's always like maybe 2 or 3 songs that are out and the rest are unreleased.
Gotcha.
And it's just like to see that the crowd messes with like the sound and the compliments I get. It's just like, yeah, I need to put this out.
Hell yeah.
You know, which is what I'm working on right now. I got 3 EPs coming, but I want to do it like at its own time. I don't want to just do it all at once, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm going to release a reggaeton EP, then a trap EP, and then I'm debating if at the moment, you know, the audience is big enough, I'll do either a hip hop album or an EP. But it's just, I have so much music that I just want to put out and then start working on new music.
Hell yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of people don't know that I have this much music saved up, you know?
Well, yeah, I meant that at the moment you don't have a ton released, but it sounds like you've definitely got some stuff cooking.
Yeah.
Now I want to take a moment that I want to zoom out. I want to look at kind of more music as a whole.
Okay.
What are you listening to right now? What are you taking in at the moment?
I listen to?
Yeah.
What I listen to is very different than what I make. I listen to Mac Miller. I like to listen to more chill vibes. I mean, there's times where like I do like to listen to hip hop. I'll listen to like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar. I mean, sometimes I just be listening to like some oldies, or we can go back to like NWA. Like it just varies. Like it depends on the mood. You know what I mean? But most of the time it's chill music. I love Kali Uchis. She's one of my favorite artists to listen to. Like I'm working, I'll put on some Kali Uchis.
Hell yeah.
You know, like it keeps me calm. I'm doing my job right, and it's just more of like, it just feels stress relief, you know?
Yeah, no, I dig that.
It's dope.
All right, now before we move into the next part, this next question is probably the densest question in the interview. But we talked about your experience with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
It gives me a peace of mind. It kind of just like distracts me from like just the world in general. I feel like when I'm creating music, it's just this feeling. It's a feeling you can't really explain, but you just like, you love that feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that I've grown passion for it to the point where like, if I'm making a reggaeton song, it's like, I feel good. I feel hyped up. I feel, you know, I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
If I'm doing hip hop, it's just more of like, I'm speaking from like what I'm feeling inside. I'm letting you guys know how I feel, how my mind works. Trap is just more of like, I'm in my like, you know, my zone where like I just don't care. I just say whatever. Even if, I mean, there might be some stuff where it's like it's a little, crossing the line or whatever. But it's just like, I'm on my bully. I just talk whatever.
Yeah. No, I dig that. It sounds like they kind of give you different spaces to express kind of the overall versions of yourself.
Depending on how I'm feeling is what I want to like work on.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just kind of like cool because it's like if I'm feeling like partying, like I'm gonna make some reggaeton.
Mm-hmm.
When you're feeling that vibe, it makes you create even better than, just trying to force it.
Yeah.
In a way.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course.
Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Hypothetical.
Yeah, and for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one is pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Oh, this is a hard one. I'm going to have to go with Daddy Yankee. He's a reggaeton artist.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I got most of my styles from him.
Yeah.
Like the rapping fast, the flows, all of it. I feel like it would be a legendary track.
Hell yeah, that's a cool answer. That's a cool answer. I dig that. And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to? And I don't know how heavy your area is, so we can expand it to like the Seattle area too. Yeah,
we'll probably have to go with the Seattle area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest, that's a good question. Because there's a lot of artists out there that like have no idea who I am.
Yeah.
Which is my goal is to set that boundary to the point where, off the top of my head, I cannot think of someone. There's too many.
I got you.
But definitely, damn, that's a hard one to be honest.
You're all good.
I think that's a question that I cannot answer at the moment.
That is all right. Well, everybody, you know what to do. Throw some people in the comments. Let's see if we can come up with some cool collaborations.
Let's go.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limit, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show. It doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
I'd want to perform where I was born, Urapa, Michoacan. Kind of just more of like visit my hometown where I was born and just show them what I got,
Yeah. Hell yeah, I dig that.
I mean, I know that there's other bigger arenas and things where, other artists would say, but I would want it to be something meaningful to me.
Yeah.
No,
that's a super solid
I feel like once it gets to that point, I want to do something like that where I can travel back to where I'm from and, represent.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
I'm going to have to go with Tupac.
Okay. Would you want an album that came out like in succession to his other ones, or would you want one from now?
I'd want one from now. I'd want to see his perspective on the world now.
Gotcha.
I feel like we didn't get enough of him.
No, very much so. He was definitely somebody that left us way, way, way too early.
Yeah, way too early. Yeah, I'll be bumping his tracks all the time too. It's just, it depends on how you're feeling,
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely up there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. I know you already kind of touched on it, but what can we look forward to between, let's say, like now and the next 6 months?
Next 6 months. Okay. Well, I got lots of music coming. I got, some shows that I'm planning. I don't want to say too much, but I got a couple headlining shows that I'm going to be doing.
Oh, okay.
I want to do I'm actually going to be doing my first headlining show. And then after that, it's just another one.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to all that.
Yes.
For this next one, then, go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You guys can find me on Instagram as Doble D. No, Doble_D official. Y'all can just click the link. It'll take you to all my socials. TikTok, YouTube. I even have a website you guys could check out. So just tap in and, I'm going to be releasing a lot of music. So stay tuned.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Yeah. I want to shout out my homegirl, Xana. She's a dope person. She's helped me out a lot. Shout out S.A. Bree. He's put me on a lot. Grateful for that. All my homies that we kick it. You know, shout out Medians Collective. They be supporting Tough, rocking their merch. Yeah, you know, shout out all my friends that support, people that be sharing all of my music. You know, just means a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Then with that being said, I've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Okay, dope.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
All right.
But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a bit of a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, digging into the vault for this one.
Yeah, you definitely are. I'm going to have to go with... I mean, you know, this is that type of music I like to listen to, but I'm going to have to go with Kali Uchis. I can't remember the name of the album. It's... I'm trying to remember. I think it's called Isolation, I believe. It's just more of like... It's just passionate to me. Like, whenever I hear it, it's just like... I may not seem like it, but I sing it at the top of my lungs, you know? Like,
Gotcha.
I feel it. I feel like she started getting more recognition now than back in the day.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, but I've been bumping her since I was like 16.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I just listened to like all the old stuff.
Yeah, that's a super solid rec.
Yeah.
All right, but with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, very much.
It means a lot for real.
Very much so.
Thank you.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
Es el pinche doble D, carnal.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.